Hey everybody, let's go on a tour of the aftermath. A little while ago on social media, on my Instagram, I posted some stories about the current state of my Hoya collection. And it's bad. Unfortunately lost almost half of my collection, which was over 100. And it really kind of threw me. A lot of collectors are grappling with, just in terms of, maintaining collections, that we grew very rapidly during the plant boom of 2020. A lot of collectors are still maintaining their collections, and, I'm not disparaging that. I'm not trying to say that this is a universal thing. It certainly is not. It's very much a me thing. We're spending probably collectively less time inside at home now, without the I say this, I was going to say without the imminent threat of another pandemic, but right now we're dealing with crap in your lettuce. So I don't know. If it's not one thing, it's another thing, right? In my case, as a Hoya collector, it just became, I had to find and dedicate a single room to my collection to house it. Most of them did all right over winter, but there have been a couple of points where I realized that even though, Hoyas are a hardy genus of plants, they are, very forgiving. They're not 100% forgiving if you leave them in a room by themselves for over a month. There have been a couple of points where I thought I was losing, my collection, that I just, was trying to kind of get them back from the brink after kind of maybe stepping just a bit over kind of what they were able to tolerate as far as neglect. Those couple of times that's happened in the last, year or so, most of them have bounced back. This time was different. When I came to my senses, I suppose, or like recognized that, okay, I really do need to do some in-depth plant care with over 100 species. And started looking closer, I realized that there were mites. My Hoyas have mites. The last several weeks has been an exercise in trying to save what I can. Put those that may be too far gone outside to see if they can rebound. And then, preserving what I have left. It's been a real exercise in humility and a real exercise in, just frustration at myself and even a little bit of self-forgiveness. And it happened. I take full ownership over my part in it. So I really just wanted to share that with you, for what minimal impact that has on your experience. I'm still a Hoya head. I still have Hoya. I mean, this is an important thing to remember. Like, there was a culling process that had to happen just because of the pest, but I have many Hoyas still. I'm not lacking for Hoya. I did lose, after kind of reviewing my collection, I lost some of my favorites. I no longer have a Curtisii, that long one that was prominently featured right here in this corner. There are a few rarer species that I'm really, really mad at myself for neglecting and letting go. But some of my favorites I still have. I know some people will probably be mad or frustrated or just, at the thought of what could perceivably be like a needless loss of Hoya's specimens. Like, I fully recognize that. And just to let you know, if you're frustrated with me, I'm frustrated with me too. Yeah, it's really, really disappointing. So just wanted to put that out there. Like, I'm kicking myself too. Like, this is not good. It's really not good. There have been lessons learned, and ultimately the goal is to, preserve what I have, and really with the approach that, I am preserving specimens of these plants that outside of cultivation, they only exist in like maybe one specific region of the world. And that's an important lens for me to use, and really focus through, because these are beautiful plants and I've enjoyed growing them, and I enjoy my collection. And there are just points in my life, fairly recently, off and on, the last, few weeks, months, or years even, where I've maybe forgotten that. So I'm really trying to be better, and really take care of these plants and preserve the integrity of these plants, and preserve their legacy in some ways. So without further ado, I'll show you what's going on. So I'm only going to show you the parts of my plant room here that have plants. The whole room behind me is one giant mountain of laundry at the current moment, so I'm not going to show you that, but don't worry, there's nothing back there except clothes. But just kind of stepping back a little bit, still my spare bedroom, that has my Hoyas in it, most of the collection. And I've got my bookshelf here. This corner used to have Hoya. I had a big plant stand there. Right now it's housing my peace lilies. These are funeral peace lilies. Yeah, so I've got a few. These are the ones that survived, and basically what that means is they did not have any signs of mites, that I could see. They still got treated. They still were very thoroughly treated. But at this juncture, these were the ones that I was comfortable leaving in the space, after I cleaned it thoroughly and cleaned them thoroughly. And some of them are still showing some signs of stress, I think, just in terms of leaf color, and I haven't seen new growth in a while. But I have my carnosa, my plain carnosa here. I have my Skinneriana, which honestly is doing a whole lot better. It's got new growth, actually, a darker green. This is the one I was like, uh-oh, you're not looking so good. What do you have? But it's pushing new growth, which is cool. This one is my Wilbur Graves. I think this is the Russia version, which is the better of the two. I still have both of my Wilbur Graves. The other one's outside right now. But Russia's looking good. Got some new growth up there. Back here, this is a Pubicalix Splash. Just a hardy Hoya. They go for days. So Hoya Jennifer, this was one that I was very scared I was going to lose. This is one of my favorites. I've got a couple of vines in here. One of them was the leaves were very, very soft. I was worried that the roots were rotting and it wasn't taking up water, but they have firmed up. So the other vine was fine. So I think this plant is going to make it. Then I've got my species Hoya here, my Hoya, which is doing quite well with some big leaves here. Some sun color on that. And then, can't pronounce that, Saragenensis. Doing pretty well, new growth. And then, I always forget what this one, I think it's Species India. Pretty sure that's Species India. Where's that tag? Right there. Yep. doing much, much better. This one was also kind of, it was right at like 55, 45%. 55% being, yes, I'll keep it in the house. But again, no signs of pests, just really, really unhealthy leaves. But they have all firmed back up. I don't see any signs of root rot just from looking at the leaves. Obviously, I'd have to look at the roots to confirm, but I'm just kind of letting that one sit, maintaining some care. I do still have a Monstera Thai constellation. That one leaf is looking pretty rough. It's continuing to do its thing. I don't know. It's very slow growing. I used to have Hoyas in this corner too. They are either gone or outside now. But Thai constellation can sit there for a bit. Okay, moving on to the bookshelf here. Top 3 tiers are plants mostly, but you can see there's not as many on the shelves. So a lot of my little Hoyas actually died, but quite a few of them actually pulled through. So I'd say I was probably about, probably 50-50 on the little ones. Slightly higher on the big ones in terms of what I was able to keep. But I can't remember which Lacunosa this is. It's like the black one or dark leaf. Then I've got my Discidia ovata right here, which is just a trooper. Can't remember which, I think this is Discidia imbricata. And then I've got Numelarioides, I've got Biaconensis here. In back, I've got a Carnosa. This is a Freddy Splash, which is vining really well. I've got Hoya Idaho, Gabriella Plants cultivar. Oh, Biaconensis I think has some new growth down there. That's really cool. That's really good to see. This was a touch and go one. I've got my Endoensis, which I did lose a vine of this. I had more vines in this specimen. It was a fuller plant, but I was able to save one of them, and that's got new growth on it. That's lovely to see. My Hoya Deke is vining. This is my Hoya Carnosa Nova Ghost. There, set that there. Doing really well. Hoya Corneri, Thomsonii, which, oh my God. Guys, I'm tearing up a little bit. I know that seems really silly, but this has been such an ordeal. And just to see little vines of hope is amazing. So that's kind of my top tier here of my smaller plants. And then on this bottom, or this middle shelf, I've got a Lacunosa. This is a mint, and this one has come back from the brink multiple times. I'm gonna do my best to not make it do that more than it ever should moving forward. I've got a Hoya Carrii. This is the Splash. And this one is doing something new for the first time in a very long time, which is great to see. Got my Hoya Lobii with new stuff. And then my Hoya cultivar Arena, which is really kind of just, I don't know about this one. It has its good days and its bad days. And then my Hoya Shuk, which has new growth on there. That's exciting. And you can see I've moved some plants around like they were in different parts of the room previously, just to give them a try somewhere else, because they seemed to be not maintaining very well where they were. So always ready to try new things. That's a mess. I may have some polyneura in there, some cuttings that I can preserve and pot up, but again, kind of neglected. I've got to get in there and see what's going on. But I see some green, I see some new growth. We'll see, there might be a few in there I can preserve. I've got this beautiful lad here, Pachyclada, which has, I think, some new growth on it, if I'm not mistaken, at the end of these vines here. Got some new stuff happening. That's exciting. And then over here, this I've had for a while. This is my imbricata, my Hoya imbricata, and it lives fully enclosed. I just water it rarely, occasionally, but I think I have to get in there and clean it up and maybe change some things, because some of the vines look like they died back. It's just, everything's kind of degrading in there. Doesn't look super healthy anymore. So we'll make that a project. But that is what currently lives in my Hoya room. Let's show you outside. All right, before we go outside, there's just a few I want to show you. So this beautiful lad, it's my Carnosa compacta. I've tried to grow this a few times throughout my Hoya collection experience and kind of always ran into issues with it. But this one, because it's sitting on my work desk and it's like in my line of sight most of the day, every day, I think I've really been able to kind of force myself to hone in on what it wants, which is more attention than you think. So I'm very, very pleased. I've got new growth everywhere on it. These vines are starting to do stuff. They were very, you know, when you get Carnosa compactas, they're usually little plugs, or the vines aren't this. So I'm very, very happy with this guy. I'm gonna keep maintaining it. Yeah, here's a win. So I would be remiss to probably talk about the Hoyas right here, because I do have a few. This is my half wall in my living room, or in my office, my main living space. Kind of my kitchen's back there, but I have a few Hoya hanging out here. They were not in my main Hoya room, so these Hoyas were living out here pretty regularly. They were on a shelf in my living room. And again, you know, just as I've been focused on preserving my collection in light of recent events and the pest issue, I've just been kind of focused in on most of my plants. And this one had some issues. It was a much fuller plant. I do have one vine that's still doing its thing, which is good. My UT073. I've got a few pubicalyx back here. This one I think is the what is this one? I almost said Cherokee purple. That's a tomato. It's the purple Hawaiian, I believe. They're doing all right. I've got new growth, new things happening. And then this beautiful little thing. I'm trying to remember what you are. And I think I lost its tag. Shoot. Unidentified Hoya that seems to like me. No complaints. I'll look this name up. All right, we are on my patio. And just want to show you a couple of spots. This being one. We'll call this the medical shelf. Very surprisingly though, these are all alive. So yeah, this is my medical shelf. I've got 10 Hoyas out here that I moved out here because they showed spider mite signs. Pretty significant. My Hoya Wilbur Graves, this is the China cultivar. This has new growth on it, which was not really expecting at all. This one was pretty far gone. Chelsea wasn't as bad. You can see the leaves are looking a little off with color. That's just kind of how it's been. So I'm trying to figure out that. That's definitely a sign that it's not doing the greatest. And then the Rang San on this side here, very, very thin leaves, like the succulence of the leaves had been lost. What I am seeing here though are new growth points, which is pretty surprising, pretty cool actually. Moving right along, this is my Hoya salata, which was formerly known as the Pubicalix white dragon. This one has firmed up again too. What I'd noticed a lot of, where I didn't see webbing, I was seeing the leaves losing their succulence and their color. The sklabulosa was very, very yellow. And the leaves had lost their succulence. They all looked like that, really. So this is encouraging, you guys. I see new growth points on this one. So where things had been stalling out, like this melliflua, subspecies fraterna, hadn't really seen anything happen for a while. And then these older leaves, would eventually yellow and fall off. You can see there's a really big gap on this vine where there were growth points or leaves that were lost. But that's new growth up there. Flores Island, this specimen, I was so scared to lose. This was a Hail Mary. This plant was very, very lax. It had lost all the succulence in the leaves. And now I have new growth points on it after it being out here for a couple of weeks, and the leaves have all firmed up. So that is so exciting for me to see. The Parasitica, I had two plants. I had kind of taken cuttings from one. I think this was the mother plant, and I lost the other plant that I had taken from cuttings. But that one's perking up. And then my obovada. This one is doing pretty well. You can see there's some abnormal growth. But overall, not bad. With this side of my patio, I just have a couple of Hoya. I did move some of my aloe out. Actually, all of my succulents really go outside in the summer. And that includes what remains of my jungle cacti collection. And I have a pickle plant there, this wonderful Ripsalis. I love that Ripsalis, actually. But I do have a couple of Hoya. I'm not sure that this MB Lin is going to make it. This is what most of those Hoya on the medical shelf looked like. They had very thin leaves that had lost their succulence. So we'll see about that one. And then this little guy, I don't know. It's the same size it's always been since I bought it. So I just put it out here hoping it might do better. But that is kind of the rundown. I'll have to do a patio tour in a future video. So that, my fellow plant people, is my cautionary tale. I realized that I didn't really provide any specifics around why things got so bad. I think probably, the takeaway from all of this is that, please just be forgiving of yourself. Please give yourself some grace, especially if you are going through things that are not ideal. If there are things in your life that are getting in the way of, your typical responsibilities or hobbies, things that just get in the way of maintaining a collection of 150 plus plants, 100 plus Hoyas. And while I recognize those obstacles, I do realize, that growing these plants, as I mentioned earlier in the video, is very much a privilege for me to be able to do that and to acquire them. And, some of these are quite rare or scarce species that you don't see on the market very much. And especially now, since production has kind of slowed down a bit in some spaces of the plant community. I guess my advice, if you're coping with a similar situation, is to, just recognize that, you are a human being, and, your plant collection is dynamic. It will change, and we all kind of take that calculated risk when we acquire plants, especially some of the rarer ones, the ones that are investments. It's a learning experience. I've never, never have had a pest issue to this scale before. I feel like in my, multiple years, almost 7 or 8 years of very, very intentional plant collecting, that this is the first time I've had a large scale pest issue across my collection. So I take that with a grain of salt. And moving forward, I have, kind of adjusted some of my, time budgeting and my planning, because as I've been doing this tour, as I've been kind of looking through these plants, and actually have been much more encouraged than I thought I was going to be, seeing that, in spite of everything that I have done or didn't do for them, they are recovering. Some of them have new growth. The ones outside that I had all but kind of said, what, you got to get out of my house, we'll see what you do. Those have new growth. Those plants are resilient, and I just have a much deeper appreciation of that now, kind of on the other side of the spider mite catastrophe. So all that to say, I wish this didn't happen. I wish I could have been better at paying attention, but on the other side of this, I've learned quite a bit. I've rekindled my appreciation for these plants, and I have put steps in place that will help me be a better plant caretaker in the future. I hope you all are doing well. I realize it's been quite a while since I've posted anything on this channel, so trying to be better about that too, because this really does feed my soul a little bit, being in this community. Where I know that there are people who have similar, joys and struggles with this hobby. So I'm just really, really happy to be back. And even though this video is not the most uplifting video in the world, I do hope that you stick around with me for whatever comes next. I really love what I'm doing here, and I'm sitting amongst my Hoyas and realizing and recognizing that this is exactly what I want to be doing. So thank you all so much for being here, for coming along with me. If you have any tips or tricks or approaches to the plant hobby that you'd like to share in chat, we can start a conversation there. Otherwise, have a wonderful day and enjoy your plants.